producer, who this project wouldn't exist without Daniel, who originally got in touch and reached out to Matthew and started the ball rolling.
And one other little special guest, actually, because we made a film in memory of Christopher Reeve, and actually tonight,
It's all right.
This morning,
It's tonight. It's fine.
actually Christopher is with us. It's a film about family, and can Christopher get up?
Yes, and Charlotte too.
Christopher and Charlotte, which are Christopher Reeve grandchildren.
A big shout out as well, please, to our wonderful editor, collaborator and friend, Otto Burnham.
Come on, take it in, have a night.
Wonderful. First of all, thank you so much to all of you for being here. Of course you, but definitely you for honoring us with sharing this story. I wanted to start with a couple quick questions. I know the audience has plenty, but I'll start with you two. And the question really is sort of, what was the impact of Superman on you, and what made you want to make this film? Do you remember seeing the film for the first time?
Do remember seeing the film for the first time, and obviously, you know, it's an iconic part of our pop culture, but I think it's as soon as the idea was floating around and you start delving a bit more into Christopher's life post-accident, then the dimension of a great human being comes along, and the contrast and the emotional potential impact, well crafted, could be very strong. And then you start reading about the foundation, and I mean, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation in the United States in America, if anything happens to any of us in this room, is the only helpline that more than 300 million people have. This is thanks to these people here. So I think it's very important to celebrate that. And the man is incredible, the work is incredible, but the future is still incredible.
Great. And I want to turn to Will, to Matt, sorry. You must have been, your whole family must have been reached out about making a film about your dad and your mom in the past. What made you decide now is the right time and this is the right team?
Yeah, over the years there have been a few inquiries. Some documentary inquiries, some wanting to do sort of a scripted drama. But this felt, this year in October will be the 20th anniversary of Dad's passing. And when Daniel first reached out, and it just felt like it was the right time to start thinking about it. We started looking what we had, and then, Passion Pictures came on board. We reached out to Ian and Peter. I watched their work and thought it'd be great for it. We talked, and Misfits and our friends at Words and Pictures came on board, and it all came together really organically. We thought it was they were going to do a good job, and I think we did.
That's great. Anyone else? Good.
I couldn't put it better, but just that we knew we wanted, if we were ever going to do this, it had to be the right time and the right team, and that we were going to give over our archive, our home movies, sit for some raw and vulnerable interviews, and then place all of our trust and faith in the team that had assembled around us and see what they came back with. And the end result here is remarkable, so our trust has certainly been rewarded.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, please. I might jump in every now and then, but I do want to get to audience questions, so just don't be shy. Wave your hands because it's hard to see them up here. Please, right here.
Everything about the film is epic, from the subject to how it was brought to life. Can you give some credit to how the vision of the outer space, the undersea, the statue is all just so beautiful? Can you give credit to how that came to be?
I'll just repeat real quick, just for the back. The question is really about sort of the visuals of the film, especially sort of the statue and the sort of outer space elements of it. Can you talk a little bit about creating visual style for the film and the inspiration?
Well, Superman came from outer space, and Christopher Reeve always said, man has conquered outer space, but now is the time. This is after his accident. Now is the time to conquer inner space and understand the seas and understand Cure. And that gave us the idea for this metaphor of outer space and inner space that we used in our visuals. We always like to have a powerful visual, metaphorical element in our work. And this seemed to sit very naturally with this film. And the statue, Well, you know, Chris was on one hand an icon, and on the other hand, after his accident, he was frozen. And the idea of the statue representing that seemed to us to be a very powerful motif that we could return to during the course of the film, both in the titles at the beginning, but then interstitially through the narrative.
It's beautiful.
I remember at the beginning when we were brainstorming and talking about it, there was a tiny bit of us being worried of representing Christopher, and until you started seeing the film, guys, it was always about, you know, we really believe, you know, we're filmmakers, but we work in the space of documentaries. That means we work in the space of real human beings, real emotion, people that have gone and lived through everything you guys have witnessed. This is, you know, it hasn't been so easy, but we had the easy part. Those amazing people there lived through everything of it. So you feel a huge amount of gravitas. So whatever piece you put into the film, you spend a lot of time thinking about it. And when you start creating visual, first you don't want to bastardize great work from Richard Donner, you know, and all the original Superman people. Even some people might think it's dated now, it's still things that have influenced us so much. But we really want to create an identity for our own film. We don't want to just rely on some of the pop cultural iconic moments from the Superman. And we wanted this film to be our film and to be potentially the original Superman, the ultimate Superman, through actually, you know, the man himself. Thank you.
Yes, please, right here.
My name is Stephanie Victor. I appear to be the only person in the audience in a wheelchair. I want you to know my accident happened 6 months after your father's, and my life was so inspired the last 28 years by your father. The remarkable love story of Dana and Christopher and their undaunted work for people with disabilities, and how true they stayed to their values of hope and family and love. And it was so brilliantly captured in this film, and I thank you so much for releasing it now. I thank Sundance for making a seat where I could actually come here and see this. May your legacy of your family and your father live on. This is so needed and so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I still have to.
Thank you for that. I'll go right here, please.
I wanted to ask about the audio diary pieces from Christopher. I just would love to hear any background for that. What was he when he was
So real quick, the question is about the Christopher's actual voice within the film. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Apart from everything else that Christopher did, he was a wonderful writer, and he wrote 2 books, which were turned into audiobooks. The first was Still Me, which was a sort of his autobiography, really. It was written sort of maybe published a year after the accident, something like that. And then a second volume of essays, really, called Nothing is Impossible. And yeah, he made audiobooks, and we had access to his narration. And it really helped, because we obviously had these amazing 3 and all of our other contributors. But it's so wonderful for Christopher to be able to narrate parts of his own story as well. So we're very keen to use that from the beginning.
There's a great moment which we ended up on the cutting floor where Matthew discussed the cover of the book, and you took some photograph that ended up as the cover of the book, and it's a really lovely, lovely moment. That's the, you know, sorry guys, we've seen so much more than you guys. I just want to apologize, and that's some of the moments that there's another little story that never ended up in the things. It's probably an argument we've had with Otto and Peter, which I remember this morning. Christmas Day, when Will was really young, obviously the excitement of a young man, a young boy coming to you wake up super early. I'm sure everyone who's got kids knows that. You finish packing the thing, and then they awake by 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Just to get some sleep. We put some of the presents at the bottom of there, so they open up and then we can all go back to sleep. But that's my own family. Anyway, in the Reeve family, Christopher always wanted to be there and awake before Will got up. So it took 2 to 3 2 to 3 hours for Christopher to get ready in the morning with his team, amazing team of people that, you know, dedicated huge amount of the time to the family. And so Christopher would wake up around 2 o'clock in the morning to make sure that by 4:30 he'd be awake for Will. And that dedication to family and you know, and just wanting to make sure that their life wasn't completely messed up by, you know, this silly little thing that just happened to him riding his passion.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, right here.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your stories. It was so touching. And while your parents were heroes, I think you guys are too, because you guys put on such incredible work, and just to share this must have been so much. So thank you. My question for you is, how do you think the idea of Superman will touch others and change others' lives, especially as looking at kids who look up not only to your father but to the character and other actors who have tried to take on the role as well?
Thank you so much for that beautiful question. Our dad thought a lot about that as well, including in the years after his accident. And I think one of the things that makes me so happy about this film is that they go beyond just what you see as the public persona and really explore what it is to be a good human, right? Yes. You know, our circumstances were unique, but the values explored in this film are really universal. So I know there were parents in this audience thinking about what it means to be a parent. There were kids in this audience thinking what it is to have a relationship, thinking what it is to be a family, what it is to be ambitious, what it is to navigate fame for those of you who are in the industry. And through all of it, realizing, you know, that what really matters is that human connection. That's what Dad tried to bring to the role of Superman. It's what I hope people take away, is that there can be a glossy Hollywood, but really the values and the heroes are the people who survive in these ordinary circumstances and find strength and find each other. And that's really what our family was taught from the very beginning.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Alexander. Let's go over here.
I just want to say thank you so much for the bravery that you guys have exhibited with this movie. I first fell in love with your father as a person with the movie Somewhere in Time. I was a young child and being raised by a mother on welfare here in the United States, and I was able to live through movies, and that movie I've watched so many times. But your dad also has touched my family because, and especially now through this movie, because I'm a handicap. I was in an accident when I was younger, but my cousin Jesse was in a motorcycle accident where he lost his ability to move. He's now passed on, but your foundation helped him through that by inspiring him. And I wish my aunt could be here today because she helped him every step of the way to stay alive as long as he did. But I just want to say thank you. And I do have a question. Did your dad know, did he want this done, and did he write journals did he want this story? And did he give these, when he talks through notes, did he ever keep a journal?
Yeah, I mean, he was never one to turn down having a camera pointed at him, I would say, as an actor. So I was quite lucky when I was finishing up college and he started to move his finger. I had the idea to start documenting his recovery, and he went on that, as he went on that journey, and he didn't take much convincing at all, and it was an amazing experience, and I got to spend a lot of extra time with him. The other part was, Dana, on his 50th birthday, Dana made him a video, and there was kind of a montage with some interview clips and some photos highlighting his life, and he loved it so much that he said, well, you have to, when I kick the bucket, make sure you play that for everyone to see. So I don't think he would disapprove. I would just say that. But he led a remarkable life, and we're so lucky to be able to see his films, to have home movie footage, that they actually used the cameras that we had, and to be able to look at that and to have a very talented team and these guys wrap that all up into a concise, very well told story is just such a gift that we'll all cherish forever.
Yeah. And just to add to that, no, that I know of, he didn't keep journals. Matthew did document so much of the final years of his life. But I think, as you hopefully saw in the film, our dad cared the most about the work and the craft and the art. So I think if he ever were to participate himself in something about himself, he would want to do it with people like Ian and Peter and the production team behind this movie, because it is such a work of art. So he would not have wanted a chronological retelling of, you know, his highs and lows and the glory days, and he would want something real and authentic. And that's what we have here. It's a holistic view of an extraordinary life. And I will also add to that my mom did keep journals. I don't have all of them. Maybe I do. I don't know. I can't ask her, but I have a bag full of them that Alexandra actually gave to me a couple years ago. You heard me read that poem. That was a piece of loose leaf paper in one of her random journals that was in like my baby book or something. It's all kind of just thrown together, but occasionally, especially in March around her death and birthday, I break those out, and it's nice to get a window into what she was going through in a really trying time. It's a special experience for me.
Thank you for that. We're gonna have to wrap up kind of soon, but I do have one more question for you guys, which is, and we'll reference this, but the film has a really interesting structure, and I wonder about was that the intention at the very beginning to sort of have this dual narrative going back and forth in time, or is that something that developed organically as you started talking to the children and to telling the story?
Thanks, great question, Basil. No, we thought about it from the start, even I think almost before meeting you guys. Basically, it's very simple. We overly pretentious filmmakers, so we don't want to tell the stories the same way as it could be. Retrospective biopic is a very challenging work these days. There's a lot of people, a lot of celebrities are coming to you. Again, in that case, I would disagree. But basically what we thought is that there's the accident in the middle of Christopher's life, not exactly in the middle, but then there's very two contrasting situation, and visually you will have someone quadriplegic on a vent, very static, and before you will have this really tall, as you can see, very handsome person and very charismatic. The charisma, the intelligence and handsome carried on after that. But we wanted to make sure that you never saw a before and after. As he said it, and we found out, it's one of the lines we used. We wanted to make sure we had this ability to navigate the two worlds, so you would never forget the past. When we live through our life, we are always an extension of what we were before, and we always live in the hope of what we're going to be in the future. And that's one of the things we wanted to keep in mind. It's a very human story, but I'm going to stop there, and the intelligent ones go.
No pressure. I mean, I think we did actually. I think it's important to say that Still Need, Christopher's memoir, has got a slight flashback structure itself. The first chapter is about him in hospital. So there was a big clue for that, and we would have been very stupid not to take that up. But what we did do is we sort of we kind of like laid the whole story out chronologically initially, not because that's what we wanted to do, but just because we wanted to see where the mirrors and counterpoints could be. And that was immediately we started seeing not just that it's a kind of interesting stylistic device, but actually in terms of the content of the film, both the emotional content and the kind of thematic content, I guess, you could really sort of like play the two before and after against each other, and then arrive at the point where Chris says there's no more before and after. It's one life. So it's one continuous life, and we wanted to really earn that moment at the end of the film. I probably do have more things to say about that, but I think that's enough.
Just one tiny little thing is that we are documentary filmmakers, but we borrow all the tools from fiction. Yes, as fiction talented people borrow things from, it's movie making, because it's all about emotion. But one thing we thought about straight from the start is, what an extraordinary story. You're 24 years old, you take on the role of your life, and you become a superhero as well as a superstar for people. And then you spend the rest of your life as with your craft running away from that because you want to be accepted, you want to do different roles, you want to be somebody else. And then the accident happens and you end up at the most tragic point in your life, as we showed in the film. And then he spent the following 9 years reharnessing the power of Superman. And we felt that if we could try to have that structure in the film, we would have a good film.
Well, I think you did. So, good job.
Thank you very much for coming.
I think Will, Alexander, and Matthew, for being here. And I think you all for joining us.